All right, good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, we're going to be talking about this announcement coming out of Canada. Now, I could not find any American articles coming out of the United States, that is, talking about this 34% tax upon the lumber from Canada. So this is something that I found very interesting to talk about, considering all this talk about trade wars due to the tariffs that are going to be implemented upon all these countries and make them pay their fair share, and hearing about how tariffs are not going to be impacting the lumber market coming from Canada just last week, just a few days ago, literally, and finding the market for lumber prices dumping out only to have this weekend produce an article from CBC, which I'm not sure how credible this article is, but it seems fairly credible enough, that there will be a tax upon the lumber. 34%, a significant one. Let me read you this article. Let me tell you what it says here. The title of it, and there's links down in the description to all this stuff. It says here, U.S. set to significantly hike softwood lumber duties against Canada. BC Premier and U.S. industry group both confirmed tariff rates set to go from 14.54% to 34.45%. Woo! What a rise. Now, wait a minute here. It says in the title, U.S. set to significantly hike softwood lumber duties against Canada. And then it says the industry group both confirmed tariff rate. And which one is it? Is it a duty or is it a tariff? The U.S. is, and this is what coming directly from the article, the U.S. is set to, the U.S. is set to more than double the duty and charges on softwood lumber imports from Canada, with a planned new rate set at 34.45%, up from the previous 14.54%. They're talking about the duties, not tariffs. There's a difference. It doesn't matter to the consumer. We, the consumer, don't care. We don't care. We pay the tax regardless, right? At the end of the day, we pay the tax. But when you charge a tariff, it's Canada who's paying the tax. I mean, ultimately, we pay the tax because we're the consumer. But it's them who's paying the tax. When it's a duty, it's the consumer who pays the tax. This is like excluding Canada. It's just like, no, you get out of this for just a second. This has to do with me and the consumer, right? The government dealing with the consumer. Canada, you chill for just a second, right? You guys who buy Canadian lumber, we're going to charge you a hell of a lot more if you buy that Canadian lumber. Canada, be quiet. This doesn't have anything to do with you. You see the difference inside of this? See, it would be differences is like, hey, if you want to send us lumber, you're going to pay a tax for it. That's a tariff. When you say, hey, Canada, you're going to pay the tax on sending us lumber. When you tell the consumer, hey, you're going to pay the tax. This doesn't have anything to do with Canada. This is us telling you to back away from the Canadian lumber or else. Right? See, this isn't making them pay their fair share. This is denying them market. This is denying them the market. That's what it's doing. And that's what Canada's all upset about, is that they want part in that market share. And the United States is like, you subsidize your lumber, you make it too cheap, and puts a burden on our domestic suppliers here in the United States. And we're telling our consumers here to go screw yourself, Canada. We don't want your lumber, and if we do get your lumber, we're going to charge the consumer, not you. That's what it's saying. And Canada's like, whoa, we're a producer of lumber. Like, I mean, it would almost be better if they got charged the tax, and then they would be like, okay, fine, send us the tax. But instead, what they are telling is the consumer to back away from the Canadian lumber. And this will then put more pressure on our domestic suppliers, which will increase production here in the United States, or at least the idea behind it is, if you just don't have the market share coming from Canada. But considering that the demand for lumber is as low as it is right now, I can't imagine that we're going to see a huge spike in demand anytime soon, especially with the fear and uncertainty and doubt that's taking place right now. See, it goes on to say here, in Canada, the continued unjustified softwood lumber duties combined with the additional U.S. tariffs and other trade actions have united Canadians. We have friends and family in the United States who need Canadian lumber to build or rebuild their homes, and both Canadians and Americans need end to this trade dispute. Right? This isn't like, I mean, this doesn't even really have anything to do with Canada when you think about it, except for that they are trying to produce a product and send it into the United States, and the United States is telling its consumers, if you do that, we're going to charge the hell out of you for it. We're not charging Canada, we're charging you. Right? That's what this is about. This isn't a tariff, this is a duty. Right? Let me get some more quotes out of here. Let's see. See, and they keep using the word tariff. BC workers and their families depend on the jobs that these tariffs are targeting, and we hope to see the same Team Canada approach to protecting them, just like with the automotive and steel industry jobs in Ontario and Quebec. We're going to find out. It still amazes me that there's no American articles on this. So, I mean, articles coming out of the United States. Like, I don't know, maybe. Let me try it again here. Let me go and Google this, because this is surprising to find that it's nowhere to be talked about in the mainstream American news, United States news. Lumber duties. Here, let me put it in there. Lumber duties. News feed. Time range. 24 hours. Not a single CBC, Yahoo Finance. But that's the Yahoo Finance article isn't even talking about the lumber. It's talking about EU prepares for countermeasures market. Lumber duties. This is coming out of Radio NL, Kamloops News. General tariff on Alberta forestry as additional softwood lumber tariffs. This is coming out of My Grand Prairie Now, right? Another Canadian publication. There's no American news. Why? Because it's a tax upon the consumer, not Canada. They don't want people to, like, this is totally propagandized information if they don't tell you, right? Black out the information. When it comes out tomorrow, it's probably going to be a bunch of people who have already positioned themselves to take advantage of a spike in lumber as this news of tariff and 34% goes bombarding the mainstream media, and then everybody's going to lose their mind over it and tell me how wrong I am and everything else. Yeah. It's amazing to find this stuff and to know, like, a lot of people don't discuss it that much, like the difference inside of those taxes, like, because as a consumer, you don't care, right? As a consumer, you're just thinking, well, I mean, the bottom line is the bottom line. How much am I going to pay for a 2x4, right? That's it. That's all we think about, because that's what's important to us. But the idea of the propagandized information saying they're going to pay their fair share, and then literally turn around and say, never mind, we're just going to exclude them out of this tax altogether. I mean, it's their product, it's their market share, but it doesn't have anything to do with, the taxing doesn't have anything to do with them. It has everything to do with the consumer. And saying, hey, if you buy Canadian lumber, we're going to punish you for it. It's not punishing Canada, making them pay their fair share. This is charging the American consumer, saying, hey, you're bad. You're a bad person, right? For buying cheap Canadian subsidized lumber, or subsidized cheap Canadian lumber, however you want to say it. And they, of course, don't say that. They're like, oh, no, we don't do that, and then the American, counter-dumping, anti-dumping groups or whatever out there are like, bullshit, you ain't, And so it's just like this big war that's been taking place back and forth since forever, right? I mean, this isn't new. This isn't a new game. This is a very old playing game that they have done for a very long time. I don't know about a very long time, but definitely going back like decades. It's just like it's an ongoing issue. All right, let's talk about some of these comments here. Everyone that doesn't agree with me is wrong. That's just how it works. Well, absolutely. That's all-nighter. That's been my channel since the beginning. All right. And eggs are even cheaper in Europe when they aren't killing their chickens. Okay. Keep doing good, uneducated economist. Thank you. Make trade fair. Yeah. Well, at least I mean, I don't know about making trade fair. It's never going to be fair, right? There's nothing fair in this world, and I just don't believe that there's ever going to be a way that it is fair. There is people who are more industrious than other, who are going to take advantage of the situation, who are going to be able to accumulate wealth and abundance in far more proportion than anybody else out there, and they are going to be the lucky ones who happen to be in a position in which that they can just be there, right? Do that and have it. And other people who don't figure that out are feeling punished for that, and then they wonder why it is that they live in the scarcity mindset and all that other stuff that goes along with it. But to know that there's no fair to-ness, there's no fairness, it's not fair, right? And so once you understand and believe and know that it isn't fair, then you can move on from that and say, okay, how do I position myself to deal with the fact that it's not fair, and that the most industrious people are going to be the ones who hoard all the wealth and accumulate all the abundance and everything that's out there? How do I position myself to deal with it? That's really the only question that you should be asking yourself when it comes to this, because there's no way you're going to fix it, right? I mean, people theorize all the time on how to fix it. They all have better ways. Everybody has a better way. Okay? So I think about it. It was just like, okay, I theorized on many different ways on how to fix the system, or a better way of operations, or all the reasons why it doesn't work. I've theorized on all that stuff, and I got really good at it too, especially when it came to New World Order takeover kind of things. That was like my favorite. I could really dive into that stuff. Now, what I found when I believed that and went with that theory and went with that knowledge and went with those facts and looked for the evidence, I found it. And you know what? It deteriorated my life. And I found myself in a very much depressive, broke, in debt, not anything as far as opportunities. It was a horrible existence, right? And I literally created that with my own thoughts. Now, when I decided that, okay, I can't change anything that's going to happen out there. The only thing I can do is give a different meaning on how it is that I plan on dealing with it. And once I learned to deal with it in a much different fashion, because I gave it different meaning, saying, yeah, I know it's unfair. It isn't right. It's depressing. It's disgusting in a lot of ways. How do I position myself to deal with it? Because I can't change the fact that it's happening. I can complain about it. I can theorize on how to change it. There's nothing I can do to get anybody else to do anything about it. But I can change the meaning that I give it, and I can change the position that I take with it. And so since then, I found myself doing ever better as far as the position that I take. I look back and I look at my life and I think, wow, what a difference. What a difference. Holy moly. Like, I can pay my bills on time, guys. Holy shit. You know, there was a time in my life that's the only thing I cared about. If that was the only thing that I was able to get out of this, was to be able to pay my bills on time, I thought, man, that would just be the most beautiful thing in the entire world. I totally got it. Like, people are like, what's next? And I'm like, man, I pay my bills on time. Right? How awesome is that? There was a time I didn't think that was possible. Right? There was a time when I thought it was the New World Order who was keeping me down. I thought it was something else out there that was keeping me from elevating myself. And really, the entire time, it was what I was thinking and feeling. That was it. That was the only difference. As soon as I changed that and started looking at things and saying, no, I know. And I know. It's not right. It's not fair. It's totally disgusting. I wish it was a different way. It doesn't matter what I wish. Right? The only thing that matters is what is taking place and how it is that I deal with that. And that's what we've come to learn, how to deal with the situation at hand. Right? There's like, it's raining right now. You know what's nice about it being raining is that the sun isn't cooking me in my car while I do this video. And it's actually, if it rains hard enough, it actually makes a pleasant sound for the background of the video. The raining, it's perfect for a video. Like, I actually enjoy it when it's raining when I do this. But you know, if I wanted to go for a walk, that wouldn't be the case. The meaning that I give the rain is only what it is that you decided it means to you at the moment. If I wanted to go on a walk, then rain would mean something different to me. But right now, I want to do this video, and I want the sound of it, and I like the fact that the sun isn't cooking me through the window. You can do this with everything out there, including economics and the New World Order and all the information that you are getting from this video, or all the rest of the videos, or all the rest of the information that you get. All right. Hit the like button, guys. Thank you, dishes. Now, what about profit from it? Mr. Alex Thien, I really appreciate the question. Now, what do we do to profit from it? Now, here's the thing. What you are trying to do is you're trying to lead me in to an expectation. I don't do expectations, right? Like, I have my own expectations. I can't help it. I'm a human, right? I have expectations. But what you're asking me to do is to come up with information because you want that information to provide you with something beyond what it is that it's doing right now. See, I've already delivered the information. Now use it. Okay? Like, I can't tell you how to profit from it because I'm not going to deliver you an expectation. If you do this, this will happen. That's an expectation. That's not up to me to do that. Right? Like, I can give you what ifs all day long. We do that, at times. We can't help to do that but within conversations to say, hey man, if this continues, what if, right? But I'm not going to tell you how to profit from it because, for one, I have no idea what it is that you got going on in your life. Right? I mean, if I knew what was going on in your life, you would be me. Right? And then I would be able to tell you what it is that you need to do. The only thing I can tell you what it is that what I'm doing. Right? And I'm trying to tell people right now that I am not buying anything and I'm getting out of debt. In fact, I sold off a bunch of stock a couple of weeks ago and then used that money so that I could be out of debt because I thought I would have my credit card paid off by this time already. I've said that a bunch of times. Right? I haven't sold any Bitcoin. I only add to it and I'm not adding to it right now because I'm paying off the debt, right? As soon as I'm done paying off the debt, I'll be dollar cost averaging back into all the positions that I have, including the silver, which I took 100 ounces of silver and traded it for a Suburban. All right? And then I'm going to buy back that silver literally at an incredibly high price, 10% interest, right? And a 10% interest loan. And now I know that seems really extreme, but to be perfectly honest with you, the collateral, the silver itself, the person that I gave it to is already starting to say, hey, pay me back whenever, right? Because they kind of like having the silver. Even though we had this huge drop, they still like clinking those bars together. So essentially, I'm pretty much traded the trap for silver, right? See, this is the position that I've taken. I don't know how you're going to profit from it. I don't know what it is you need in your life. Are you buying a house? I mean, you need to be, if you want to get on the other side of the wedge, you need to be a property owner or capitalist. That's it. There's only those two positions. There's nothing else. Right? Now, how it is that you envision those two positions and how it is that you create that environment for yourself. Like, if you can't buy a house, I'm living in this house, this is my residence, this is the house that I am buying, I'm making payments on it every single month. I'll probably do that for another 10 years, and then who knows, maybe sell it, turn it into rental property. It'll become something very much different than what it is today. Right now, it's somewhat of a liability, but it's also my place to live. It's a fair exchange for that. Pretty soon it could be something of an asset in which that it could turn into a rental property. This is my plan for my house. This is probably not something that everybody can do with the information that I am trying to deliver today. That's what I am doing today. I am also buying small positions using Cash App, right, to buy into the stock market, although I'm not doing that right now because I'm getting out of debt, just like I said. Right? I have a 401k through my job. I have an employee match, right? So I contribute to that with every single paycheck. I don't know what else to tell you guys. This is what I'm doing. If you need to take the information, take my advice on what it is that I'm doing and maybe use it in your life in some way, hey, great, cool. If not, you need to figure out how this is working for you, right? I mean, do you have a 401k with your job and you're matching it, or are you denying yourself that? It's free money. You know that, right? I mean, it's free money. They're matching it. Yo, it's like all you have to do is put it in there. They match it. It's 100% return. Why would you got to take a while to get it, right? Because it's the 401k, but it's 100% return. Plus, then it's going to collect an interest as time goes on, right? I mean, it's just like why wouldn't you want to do that? Now, I understand that you might have a bunch of fear and anxiety and stuff like that going on about what's taking place out there in the world, and that can be very true on your existence, right? And it's just like, no, I don't want to put it in the 401k. What happens if the whole world collapses, right? And then I got all my money in this 401k, and it was just like, but you're dollar cost averaging into silver, bullion, and gold, right? And Bitcoin on a lesser extent. That's why you're doing it, is because the 401k can't be your only source. It can't be your only position. If it is, then yeah, that is dangerous. I would be nervous if I were you too. But I don't do that, so that doesn't make me nervous. In fact, I don't even really think about the position that it's in. Like how much did it go up or down or whatever, sideways? I don't think about it. It's just something I contribute to. Oh, you guys are playing now. And so, this is how I operate. So I can't give you information that says, here, let me deliver you information that's going to profit. I can't do that. I don't know how, right? Because I don't know who you are. I don't know how to do that through a video. The only thing I can do is just deliver you information, then you internalize that information. You say, okay, I look at my life. I understand what it is I got going on. I understand the four economic theories. I understand what's happening on with these tariffs and duties and all the other difference in between them, and how it is that it's taxing the lumber industry, how it is that the, homeowner or the home builder sentiment is down and keeping a depressed market inside of the lumber futures market anyway. I mean, it's just like there's so much information. How do you internalize this for yourself? You got to do it for you. There's nothing that can happen. There's no video. That's the thing. If there is a person out there who is promising you something on a video that says, hey, you do this and you will become rich, or something of that nature that's outside of you internalizing the information and changing your beliefs and structure, the way you think and feel, if there is anybody out there who's telling you that you can get rich by deploying money in this particular direction, right, then what you are doing is taking a chance. The only way to really change how it is that you are going to acquire money in your life is to change your feelings and thoughts about what it does, how it is, the energy behind it. If you think that it's something that is distant, it will remain distant. If you think that it is something that just flies around everywhere and all you have to do is just reach out there and grab it every once in a while, then it'll be loads of it. It'll be everywhere. This is good stuff. The EU trolls are here today. Yeah, there's lots of them. Define money. Okay, now that's a good one, right? Because really the difference between money and currency is money is something that holds value over time. Something that can be used for an exchange. Something that is transferable, divisible, like all the stuff, right? So silver is a great definition of money. Many languages have the same word for money, and silver is the same word, right? It's a synonymous thing. Currencies are different. Money can act as a currency, but currency is meant to exchange goods and services for other goods and services, and that is it. Period. All the rest of the stuff that people say, well, the dollar's value back in the day was this, and now it's this, and what do you say about that? And I say, well, it's not money, it's currency, and you shouldn't look at a dollar as currency or as money when it's not money and then it's a currency. And once you view it as a currency, you don't think of it as money, right? You think of it as currency, meaning that I have something to exchange my goods and services, the things that I just did, for other goods and services. And if it starts to lose value over time, it's my fault for not exchanging it for goods and services. Because it wasn't meant to hold value, it's meant to do the exchange. And when you say, oh, but I wanted to save value, I wanted to hold value, I want to use it to save. And it was just like, well, that's not what it does. And you're like, but I wanted to. Okay, well, I want a million different things in my life, and I know how to manifest a lot of stuff, but I can't make something do something it's not, right? Like, I mean, it's just like I can't make something, be a thing that it isn't. And so when people say, oh, I want to save in this, and it was like, well, you're saving in a currency, you're taking your chance. Why don't you save in a money like silver, right? And then you would have a difference. But when you look at it and you try to say, well, this folding dollar of mine should hold value over time, then you're asking for it to do something that it just simply will not do. That's not something that has the capability of having a characteristic of being. So it's just like, it's like asking somebody to behave differently than what they are. It was just like, hey man, you're asking them to not be them. If you're asking them to change their behavior, that's on you. You're a manipulator. That's what you're doing. Especially when you're saying, hey, I want this dollar to hold value. No, it's not something that holds value. It's a currency. Right? So don't give it a characteristic that it's not and try to change what it is. It isn't that. Right? That's what you want it to be because you're a manipulator. Don't manipulate it. Right? Understand that it's a currency and that you have to change it for other things because that's what currencies do. Change goods and services for other goods and services. Then you don't get mad at it and you don't get depressed about dollar devaluations and all the other stuff that goes with it. You're like, whoa, that sucks, right? I mean, boy, I better figure out what I'm going to do with this. I better hurry up, right? Because it's only got so much time. All right. There's a simple setting to flip the screen with when it records. Yeah, I know. I see now. If you were to just do a recording of my camera, it's flipped. It's the accurate way of viewing. However, when I do a YouTube live for whatever reason and I cannot figure out why it does it, it will flip it. I don't know why. It's just the way it's doing it. I've gone to all the settings, try to figure it out, and it always comes out this way. So, and it doesn't really matter, right? There's nothing to see here. I don't know why people would even care if it's flipped around, right? It's all in the audio, right? So, I mean, I literally don't have anything to look at. All right, there is always pain trying to stop a bad addiction, regulations, and unfair tariffs from other countries was our addiction. All right, currency is like an out of the money option that never goes in the money. Like, well, no, that's not true because, like, it's trading goods and services for other goods and services. I wanted to trade the silver for the Suburban, but it didn't quite work out that way because the guy who owned the Suburban didn't want silver. But I found a guy who did, who would do the trade, right? And if, like, he was like totally down for it. So the currency was the dollars that I used, right? But I ultimately didn't even touch those dollars for, I don't think I had them in my hand for more than maybe 5 minutes. As when we showed up to pick up the Suburban, I handed the guy 100 ounces. He handed me an envelope with the cash in it. We went up, at one point, talked a little bit, handed the cash over for it. At this point, I had already, test drove the Suburban and all that other stuff. I made was deciding to make the deal on it. So the currency was the dollars that was used, right? But it was what was facilitating the trade because, there's no way that I was going to be able to just trade the silver directly over for it because he didn't want it. But the currency was used, right? Now, to me, I didn't I touched the currency for literally, I think it was like maybe 5 minutes, you know? But, and then still the deal isn't silver. Like I'm looking at the silver collateral that I had used. So that's part of the deal. But the currency is the dollar. So now I need to provide him back with currency, right? In order to get my silver back. I need to trade my goods and services, which is essentially me going to work, right? Get the currency handed over and get my silver back, right? And again, by the time I trade my goods and services, it can literally be 5 minutes from the time I cash my check to the time I get my silver bar back. It's just like, let's see. The last image he showed, prices were going down, futures were going down. Sorry. Yeah, futures did go down on a speculation of tariffs on lumber. Now we got duties on lumber. It's a completely different thing. It's a tax upon the consumer as opposed to a tax upon the Canadians. And since there's a downturn in the demand for lumber that has taken place, I can't imagine that we are going to see a whole lot of speculative purchases going into lumber unless this news is pushed upon the American people with propagandized mainstream media attention to it, which I don't see happening. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's happened in the last few minutes. Let me see. Let me Google it. I find that incredibly weird, right? Not a single lumber. Let me get in there. Google lumber. Actually, let me just put lumber duty. Lumber duty. Softwood lumber duty. News feed, time range, 24 hours. Nothing. Not a single American article. Or a United States article on it. Why? Because they don't want to do something about not wanting to tell you? Maybe? Possibly? Maybe it's propaganda information in itself going to the Canadian people to piss them off even more on the Americans. I don't know. Like, I don't know. But it seems like a legit article. It's coming out of several places. I mean, Yahoo News picked it up from the UK. They're telling them. Yeah. I mean, it seems legit enough. Why? I get it. No one saw the coming part. Maybe they did, but now we're stuck with it just trying to follow. Well, I think probably what we had experienced was, what would it be like to have a 25% tariff on Canadian lumber, or a 25% tax on lumber? What would experience within the market look like if that was to be the case? Now they got a test subject, right? The credible threat of tariffs, remove that, exempt the tariffs, and then actually inflict upon the people a 20% tax through duties, which doesn't have anything to do with Canada, and know essentially where the mindset would be once this happens. The futures would move to a particular level. They already essentially got a trial run. Right? I mean, I don't want to call it that, but that's kind of what it was, right? It was essentially like a trial run to see what the markets would behave like if they believed that there was going to be a 25% tariff. Remove that, market speculation falls out, remove the money out of it, and then impose this 20% tax on the American people themselves through the duty, through the consumer, right? And then have somewhat of an idea on where the markets would go upon it. But they're not punishing Canada, they punish the people. They're punishing Canada in market share. I mean, so that is a punishment upon the Canadians. That's why they're so upset about it, because they don't get to send as much if the American people are going to be punished for buying their product. That's a problem for them, but they're not paying the tax. They never were. I mean, the consumer was going to pay the tax regardless, but it doesn't matter. It's not going through Canada. We're not saying, hey, you guys are getting punished for this. Instead, they're like, hey, you, the American people, are going to get punished for buying that. How about that instead? It's not a trade war. It's a trade war upon the mindset of or upon the American people themselves. And I mean, that's fine by me. I mean, I live in lumber country. I hope they do it personally. I hope I mean, I love Canada just the same as everybody else or whatever, but I got trees and mills and people around here who need jobs. So, the more we operate lumber production here domestically, especially in my own area, the better it'll be. Like, the more money we get, the more money for schools, the more money for stuff, all this stuff. It's more money. Yay. Right? But I'm also realistic in the whole matter and to understand that, what I want and what is going to take place are two different things. It's not, none of this has to do with what I want. Okay? I mean, I don't want anything but a view, ribeyes, and music. That's the only thing I want. Like, when somebody says, you blue liberal whatever, and I'm like, how in the world did you come up with that? I don't even know what that means. It was just like being in a liberal mindset. I mean, are you kidding me? I want to cut off federal fundings for everything and everyone. Right? I believe in a coffee party, literally. Cut off federal fundings for everything and everyone. Like DOGE, nah, coffee. Right? Now go and trying to exist. And people will be like, you're living like you're depressed. And it'll be like, well, no shit, man. I lived that way a long time. See if you can handle it. Right? Once you give up on expectations of what it is that's going to come from the future, as far as like they're going to do it better or they're going to have a better way or something like that, and then you rely upon yourself to make it happen, whole world changes. Here we go. Hey, Simon, why does USA consider PCE instead of CPI as an indicator of inflation? I have no idea. I don't know. And does it, I mean, and ultimately, does it really matter? Like, what metric they use. It's not anything of reality based anyway, right? Not in the way that we would want them to look at it. They don't compare apples to apples from the way that they used to do it. They have changed the way that they view inflation. They use the same numbers like, oh, it's, inflation rate is this today and it was that yesterday, but yet it's not the same way that they figure out the inflation number to begin with. And then on top of all this, right? On top of all of it, FASB 56. I don't know how many people have ever gone back and watched my video on that. It was one of the earlier days of, like, within the first year of me starting this channel. I covered a change to the way that the government does the numbers, and it's called FASB 56 legal lies, right? If you go and you research that within the search of my videos and you find that FASB 56 video, legal lies, there's an article. I don't know if it's still, the link is still good. It talks about it. The government has already stated that they will lie about all the numbers for national security reasons. All of them. Every single one. They say the numbers that they do use are good enough for your investments, for, for business, for whatever. Like, all the numbers that you use are acceptable numbers for doing your transactions, for doing your investments, for doing all this stuff. But the real exact numbers are hidden from reality. FASB 56, this is coming directly from the government. They talk about it. This is what they say, right? So now when I look at this and I think to myself, all the numbers that they are using don't mean anything to me. The only thing that does matter to me when I look at these numbers is the direction that they are going and by how much, because I think that has something more of a reality to it. Right? So I don't think about where the numbers are comparatively to where they used to be and all that other stuff. It's a very difficult way of operation. You're going to be very confused because really they don't even use the same metrics. So it's like, it's a constantly evolving, changing way of looking at this number, and then to compare it to past previous ways, it's almost impossible to know exactly what it is that they're trying to communicate where it is. And it's like, it'll make your head spin trying to figure that part out. But there is a direction in which it is going, and by how much. And I think that does have a lot of reality to it. Now, again, how much can you trust that? I don't know, right? I mean, it's just like, it's all coming from their numbers. They're deploying the numbers. So it's just like, how do you figure it out? I mean, it's all theirs, So, but to know that FASB 56 exists, it literally changed the way that I look at the information now, and that I don't think about, like, people are like, well, what about this and what about that? And I'm like, I don't know, the number of FASB 56, it doesn't matter anyway. Just look at the direction it's going and by how much, because I think that's really where you should be focusing the attention. Everything else is fake, or could be. And then once you think it could be fake, then it is fake, right? Or at least you have to at least internalize the idea that what you could be looking at is not reality. Yeah. It's just gaslighting at the finest. This is why credible threat theory is the best theory out there. Credible threat theory incorporates the idea that this could be taking place. Right? That they push particular ideas, that you look at the way that they are communicating about particular events out there and how it is that they distribute the information and why it is that they distribute this information in the direction that they do. And then once you see how people feel and react to this information, you can realize, wait a minute, they are conducting monetary policy off of this emotional-based energy that comes through a propagandized delivery system through many different channels. Like, they know that some people, when you talk about monetary policy, will listen. Other people don't give a shit. They can care less when you talk about monetary policy, but if you talk about it on The View, all of a sudden it becomes something important to them. That's how they do this. That's why it works so well. Is because even this right now, I'm reading a mainstream media article coming out of central bank, right? Jesus, out of British Columbia. Right? This CBC, whatever it is. And this opinionized article, right, which does have factual based evidence, whatever within it, right? You say, hey man, these particular things are taking place. But then the emotional delivery of it, the meaning that they give behind it, is very different from what it is that somebody else may write about these duties. And all of a sudden, how it is that this information is being delivered to Canada may be different from the way it's delivered to the United States, if it is even delivered to the United States. Right? I mean, it will be, because the people are eventually going to figure it out, especially when you got people out there making videos like I am. At some point, people are going to understand and want the news, and they're going to be questioning why it's not on Fox News. And so Fox News is going to have to deliver the information. How they deliver that information and the meaning they give it is going to be different from this article. I guarantee you that. And that's ultimately why it is that people are out there searching for information, is because they want to know what it is that's happening, and then they learn it, they get the meaning behind it, they then incorporate the meaning behind it as a particular thing, and now their subconscious is now working with this every time they go out there to do business. I find it completely fascinating. It's like one of the biggest psychological, manipulation tricks of all time. It's incredible. It's incredible to see, and it's sad in a lot of ways. Like, it's really sad that this is how they're doing it. It's almost kind of like, reporting on like a really devastating event or something like that, and then becoming like almost disconnected, desensitized in a lot of ways. Like, I don't look at I am almost desensitized in a lot of ways, saying, man, look what they're doing to the poor people, man. They're using this propaganda against you, right? And I used to be that way. That was like very much the conspiratorial mindset of me. Now I just grown to accept it. Like, they use this propagandized information against the people. And then I think about how it is that the people would absorb this propagandized information and their reactions to it. And really, this is how I look at it, because most people don't realize they're looking at propaganda. They think, oh, I can read between the lines. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Right? Some people might, right? But everybody is getting the information with an emotional feeling that's giving it a meaning. Right? Everybody is. And once you recognize that that's what's happening, once you recognize it, and it's usually after the fact, and it's usually much later, you're looking back on it and you're going, oh yeah, I did give it that meaning, didn't I? And I probably shouldn't have, right? And it's usually after the fact that you will recognize it, but that's what's happening every single time you read an article. Every time you go out there and you get some information from a video, every time you hear somebody talking about something, they're delivering that with meaning, right? And you are taking it in with that meaning, and you are changing the way it has the value of it, the response that you have from it, everything. I mean, the hardest way to accept this is to look at a terrorist attack. To us, it's like chaos and devastating and disgusting and horrible, and why would they ever do it? And on the other side, it was a religious experience. How could it mean so different to so many people? Such an extreme difference. But it's meaning. Everything is this way. Everything is essentially a neutral, even that terrorist attack. As sad as it is, because we want to give it meaning. We want everybody to have the meaning that we have for it, right? But not everybody's going to have that meaning. And to understand, because not everybody's going to have that meaning for it, the event itself is a neutral. Because it's not going to have any other hidden meaning behind it other than the one you have for it. And as much as we don't want to see it, as much as we are going to prevent it because we have this meaning for it, and we will have meaning for it, there's no other way you can, it really comes down to somebody else didn't have that meaning. Right? That's the strangest way to look at it, I know. But it's really the ultimate way of looking at it, because everything really comes down to that same energy, the same thing. Right? All right. William G. Atheist #1. Man, thank you so much for the $5 Canadian. Super supportive of the channel. You have been for a while now, man, and I really appreciate that. Okay. Gavin Newsroom has stated California is going to negotiate directly with Canada, a port sort of thing. Your thought? I don't know. I want to see what it happens. I want to see what it is. I really do. Like all this stuff, like I am not taking in any kind of consideration for like actual evidence of it happening until it takes place. Like I mean, all this the ideas that are being negotiated right now, they're going to be talked about and pushed out there, and it's going to create this like expectation that a lot of people will have. Like even just think about the lumber tariffs and the way that people were reacting to it. You know, so even if they create this situation in which that, like, say, I'm assuming that like California is going to make a deal directly with Canada for lumber or something of that nature. I don't know if this is exactly going to be like something. I mean, I guess it's something that they could do, like say, hey, I want to directly bring in lumber from this particular region into these particular regions. And I would imagine that there's probably the way of doing that. But to understand, like, lumber kind of works like a flow, right? It's like a filling of the sluices, so to speak. Here's a good example of it. In 2018, I work at a lumber yard. Those of you who've been following the channel for any length of time know this. I work at a lumber yard, been working there for a long time. In 2018, it's a local lumber yard, small place. 2018, the yard was completely filled with British Columbia, but one particular mill, right? Completely filled our entire yard. Like every single unit of every single size, of every single length was all coming from like this one region, this one particular mill. And there would be like, other mills in there occasionally, but for the most part, like better than 50, 60, probably even 70% at times was just filled in with this one particular mill. And I remember looking, I'm like, man, and then I look at like the date of production and it was like within no time at all. It was like within 6 weeks, I think, 6, 7 weeks. And I'm like, holy crap, this stuff is on the move, right? So it's just right into our yard. And so I think about that, like how this like distribution network works, right? So it's like rails, trucks through these distribution hubs, right? And so this one particular area was getting flooded with a lot of probably rail cars and flow of material coming from this British Columbia region, right? This one area. But then COVID hit, right? And well, really, before that, 2019, there was a huge downturn in production coming out of the British Columbia area. The stumpage fees went way up. There was a pine mountain beetle issue. There was all kinds of stuff that was happening up there, right? So there was this huge shutdown, and all of a sudden that flow stopped coming in as much as it was. Like you could still find those units, from that area, and it was still pretty plentiful, but it was still like, now you were finding more of other mills, other locations coming in. Then COVID hits, dramatic depletion of lumber, right? All of a sudden, all the mills are shutting down. Inventory depletion is almost like, gone, right? It's just like, it's just out of there. And now the distribution hubs and essentially like if you can envision the sluices, right? Like all the rail cars, all the trucks, all the stuff that's carrying this lumber is now getting lumber from wherever it can, right? It's just reaching out there. It's not like a nice giant flow of lumber coming from this one area where it's just a huge abundance of it and it's just coming in after rail after rail after rail after rail. Right now it's like, where the hell is it? Can we reach out there and grab it from wherever we can? So right after COVID kicks in, the lumber depletion, we're starting to bring in lumber, and like every unit is different. Like I'm looking at it, I'm laughing. I'm like, every mill, every unit is from a different mill, right? And they're mills like I had never heard of before, right? I mean, it was just like, I remember one of them comes in, and it had this real like it had this name, and forgive me for butchering because I did know it at one time, and right now the only thing I can think of is Kalishnikov, right? And it wasn't Kalishnikov, but it sounded very similar to that, and I'm like, wow, has this real Russian name. Well, the guy who runs that mill got a hold of me. It was just like, dude, thanks for the shout out, man. I really appreciate it. And so I talked to him for quite a bit about like, the things that he was experiencing up there in British Columbia and stuff like that. And it was a really cool like kind of connection that I was able to make through that. But it was really because like all these different mills, like all of a sudden, like the smaller mills, the ones that weren't necessarily distributing to our area, we were pulling that from all different directions. And it wasn't just our yard, it was like, the region, the distribution hubs within our area. All the local suppliers were all buying from the distributors. The distributors had these different distribution hubs they're buying them from. Those distribution hubs were getting it from wherever mill that they could get in order to, fill, their inventory. And this is really how the lumber operations work. And so to think about it in any other fashion than that, right, then you have to think, okay, so now say you're going to do a deal with Canada and you got these particular mills up there that you're going to do this deal with, and now you got to route that lumber through. Like, it doesn't go to any distribution, nobody else. It goes through this channel all the way until it gets to, into that, that second location, from one location to the other. And so now you think, okay, like a piece of mail, it's just like you deliver a piece of mail, and, right, and it goes there. But lumber's different, right? Because again, it's like, if you think about it more like water. So like you push a bunch of lumber into this particular area and then it starts finding its way, right? So you're not like pulling a particular unit from one area and saying, hey, I want this unit to travel all this way down to wherever. You're wanting to buy 2x4s, of a particular grade or whatever. And ultimately, you don't necessarily go out there and say, hey, I'm going to pick whatever mill I want. You can. Like, I can go and say, buy from whatever mill I want to, they'll sell it to me. But when you're buying through buyer groups, right, so to get the best deal, those people aren't looking at, like, they're just going and saying, hey, I'm brokering the deal. I got futures for whatever, and it doesn't matter where they're getting the lumber from. They just have a price in mind and quantities, and that's it, right? And like, if it's available. So these mills can produce lumber that goes into the system that nobody cares whether or not it's coming from one region or another, or from one particular mill. Now, with that being said, again, it's not necessarily that way when the lumber yard itself says, hey, what units do you have? I want a particular premium grade, right? And so you start asking, and they're like, well, I have this particular mill. No, that's not good enough. I don't like that mill. That mill does not produce the quality of lumber that I am looking for. That can exist within it, but then you're subject to whatever it is that they have available. Do you have this other one? Nope, don't have that. So it's just like, okay, it might be available, but it may not be the quality and from the mill that you like, so you back away from it. It was just like, well, now, I mean, if that's what you have in the system right now, I'm going to see if I can find another supplier who doesn't have that in their system. You see how this is? Because it's like lumber pushing through. Does that make sense? Is like, like you could set it up so that you say, no, I want this lumber to travel all the way down to here, but then you're avoiding like the distribution network, right? Because the distribution network uses hubs, like, there's areas that the lumber flows to that get staged to then move into the different, distributors and retailers, out to it's like, it's not like a piece of mail. All right. Wow, look at all these comments. All right, 454 people with 154 likes. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. All right, we will inflation with deflation. Okay. Let's see. Trust the Trump. No, I will not. I mean, I will just take the information and data in as I see it. I do not trust or have faith in anybody out there, especially the presidents. Like, I had such little faith in Biden that I didn't even give him enough credit to listen to anything he ever said. People give me a hard time because I don't criticize Biden, or I never did. And it was like, it's pretty hard to criticize something you don't listen to. Like, I mean, people ought to give me enough credit to understand that I have just enough respect for Trump to listen to him, and when I criticize him, it means that I must have listened to him, and I give him at least enough respect for that. I did not give Biden that. That should tell people something, right? You should come out here and badmouth Biden. I'm like, I'm not going to badmouth anybody, right? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say how it is. And if I didn't listen to this person, then I can't badmouth them, in your opinion, or say anything or criticize against them because I didn't hear what they had to say, because I didn't listen. I didn't give them enough credit. Okay? So I don't trust presidents. I just don't. All right? They are not on our side. They do not care. There is not a single president out there who believes in this thing. Do you know that? There's not a single congressman, there's not a single senator, there's not a single one of them who believes in this, because you know why? Each and every single one of them continues to operate with the central banking system. And so long as you have a central banking system, you are acting unconstitutionally. Oops, there were my glasses. You're acting unconstitutionally. So not a single constitutional president exists, not a single constitutional congressman, not a single constitutional senator. Our entire government is unconstitutional. Don't trust them. Simply don't trust them. You are the only one who's in charge of this thing. Do you know that? Only you. We are meant to keep the government under our thumbs. We are the highest authority, and this was the instruction book. Nobody understands it. Nobody listens to it. Nobody knows what it says. And this is the reason why our government acts the way they do. People say, trust Trump? No, thank you. I won't do it, man. You go trust Trump. I don't have any trust for anybody out there. The only trust I have is for my own decision making. That's it. Right? And I'm not, I mean, and even that sometimes I question. But this is probably one of the most important documents in the entire history of our existence, and yet nobody understands anything that's in it. I mean, look how old and tattered that thing is, man. I carry this thing around everywhere. This thing, it's funny. A lot of people, they don't realize how simple it is to take control of your own authority. Right? You're the highest authority. That means you are not subject to anything. If you're not breaking a law, you're on top of the world, man. You're king of your castle. You're king of the world if you're not breaking the law. And a lot of people don't see it that way, and when they don't see it that way, then it doesn't exist for them. It only exists for those who see it, those who know it. Right? Rights of the people to be secure in the persons, houses, papers, and effects from unreasonable searches and seizures. Right? And no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons and things to be seized. Show me the warrant. And as All-Nighter says, show me the signed warrant, because they can go get a warrant, but unless it's signed by a judge, that's not a valid warrant. All right? The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution is probably one of the most important things that somebody should internalize and memorize and be able to dictate out, just like I said it, like as if they had wrote it themselves, cemented into their tongue. The rights of the people to be secure in the persons, houses, papers, and effects from unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. No warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons and things to be seized. It's easy enough. You can do it in the afternoon. Memorize it. Know it. Know it well. Right? Once you have memorized the Fourth Amendment, memorize the rest of them. But that Fourth Amendment is the one that protects you the most at the time that it's being infringed. When the cop says, show me your ID, say, please tell me what a crime I have committed, committing, or about to commit. Because unless you can articulate a crime that I have committed, committing, or about to commit, then this little conversation is not part of due process in which that I have to relinquish anything. Right? The consensual conversation means that I don't have to talk. It means that I don't have to provide you with anything. It means like I don't have to do anything. The moment that you commit a crime, you are in trouble. You have to produce the ID. But if you never did anything and you're just simply on the streets and you're just minding your own business and all of a sudden you're being asked to show your papers, you don't have to. And if you know the well enough, then you can actually use it against them. See, here in Astoria, you can't open carry. No open carry of a loaded firearm. See, I know the ordinance, City Ordinance 5.010, right? Says the open carry of a loaded firearm is strictly forbidden. However, that's a direct violation of the Constitution. I already know it because I have a constitutional right to bear arms. See, they can't write a city ordinance that violates my constitutional rights. I can open carry as much as I want. In fact, many guns as I want to carry. But they can't be loaded. See, there's a difference inside of it. See, they can't write a law that says, yeah, you can carry as many guns as you want. Right? There's no law against that. The city ordinance says you can't carry a loaded firearm. You can't open carry a loaded firearm. So I don't know why you would even want to carry a firearm if it wasn't loaded, unless you are transporting that firearm from one private location to another. See? They can't make a law that violates the Constitution because you have to legally be able to transport your firearm from one private location to another. If you don't have a car, if you don't have any means of transportation except for foot, which is the most common form of transportation, you have to be able to legally transport your firearm. But they can make a law that says you can't keep it loaded. They can have that law. And then the cop can stop you. And they can search you in the sense that they can check to see if that firearm is loaded. They can't search your body, right? They can't search for anything else. If you are submissive and you say, fine, here, check the firearm because that is the law. They can check the firearm for whether or not it's loaded. If it's not loaded, you are free to go. That's it, man. Conversation's over. I'm not going to identify myself. I'm not breaking the law. City Ordinance 5.010 clearly dictates that the open carry of a loaded firearm is illegal. I am not breaking the law, and I'm not going to continue on with this conversation. That proof is very questionable. Do they have any reasonable belief that it is loaded? Right? I don't want to push the issue. Here, check it. See? Not loaded. Give me back my firearm. See ya. All right? You can push the issue. How do you know it's loaded? You don't have any reasonable evidence of it. 5.010 says that the authority can search your weapon to make sure that it is not loaded. Once that has been established, there's no more further conversation needed. In fact, there's nothing that needs to take place other than that inspection in order to satisfy the ordinance, which still is questionable on the constitutional right of it. All right? How do you look at it? How do you give it meaning? What meaning do you want to give it? This is what I've done. I don't carry open carry loaded firearms. All right? I don't carry firearms anyway. I mean, there's plenty of people that I know who carry firearms. I'm totally cool with it. Right? In fact, I would much prefer everybody else in the entire world carry a firearm. That way I wouldn't have to worry about having one. And that's literally how I feel. I am so cool with people, concealed carry. I couldn't be more proud of people who do it. And that's really honestly my belief, because the people who are concealed carry are pretty responsible people who are probably going to do very well in a situation in which that I would think, man, this is the time we would need a firearm. Right? But until then, like, the only time I could ever really think that I would need one is at home. And I know how to use them, so it's not like, it's not like I learned how to use them. I just know, like, I grew up around them. It was just like, to me, they're no big deal. All right. Firearms, American rights. Wow, look at all these comments. My goodness. All right. They do make a few that violates the Constitution, the Fed. Huh. All right. Anyone know how much a passport costs right now in the USA? I don't. Just carry Derringers now. Unless someone makes a mistake, code 4. Do you think those passports are all going to proceed by 26 midterms? Processed by 26 midterms? No point. No, 100% UE. I'm Simon's Investment. Yeah, conference bodyguard. Damn right. See, I mean, I don't. I've been around firearms so much in my life that it doesn't, like, I don't think, like, people, like, I see these people, like, with this violent, like, imagery of firearms and stuff, and I'm like, ooh, what's wrong with you? Why are you so mentally deranged to believe that about firearms? Like, what happened in your life that this occurs? Like, literally, that's what I see. I think it is I think it is literally like a mental disorder. to have this view of firearms, this like, oh my god, they create violence, it's horrible, and everybody needs to like, and I'm like, oh, chill out, okay, take a pill or something, right? Because you're like, getting a little out there, and yet this is the way that people feel about them, and I just like, I wonder like why it is that I didn't grow up like that. Like, I mean, my dad didn't have like, he didn't hunt, and he was a firearm instructor in the military when he was before, like when I was much younger. And I didn't like, guns weren't around the house, right? And even this is kind of surprising to a lot of people because I grew up military, but my dad was like, pretty much a hardcore Democratic liberal, right? I mean, like he hated like the Republican parties and stuff like that. It was funny to watch, but you know, but we grew up in a military family, and he taught firearm instructions for instruction for the longest time. So just the general energy that I had or feelings of firearms growing up was one of a very like neutral view. Like it was not something that was good or bad or ugly. It was just another thing that was out there. And even growing up when like I got my first firearm when I was like 12, I guess. Yeah, I guess I was probably like 12 years old. I got a Remington 870 Wingmaster. It was a beautiful gun, right? And no, it wasn't. It wasn't the Wingmaster. It was the Express. That's what it was. I started off with a Wingmaster from a buddy of mine who let me borrow it for a year. It was a 20 gauge Wingmaster. That thing was a beautiful gun, walnut stock, beautiful. Just, oh God, it was really nice. I got essentially the same model gun, but it was called the Express, and it was a much cheaper version, and it was in the 12 gauge, and man, that thing, I I carried that thing all over the place. I even took it to school. Like people nowadays talk about, oh, guns at school and stuff, and I'm like, well, we carry guns to school. Like they were in our cars, we didn't carry them like into the school itself, but nobody really questioned it. Even having deer rifles in the back window, like when I was a freshman in high school, I think was still kind of common. Like, people would go deer hunt in the morning and then their rifle would be in the gun rack in the back window, of their pickup truck. That wasn't an uncommon sight. And so to me, like even at school, we didn't think about like firearms being, isn't that weird? Like we didn't think about firearms being like a big deal. And this is why I think it's funny that people make fun of me like, dude, you just live in a liberal world, and I'm like, yeah, well, okay. You're, yeah, there's plenty of conservative minded people up here, believe me, and, so it's just like in a completely different experience that a lot of people have. All right, moving on. Simon, we will never get it. You celebrate the right to bear arms, but vote against healthcare as a right. Well, okay, first of all, this right here has nothing to guarantee health. You know that? Nothing to guarantee health. In fact, there's nothing in here that guarantees me to be able to possess the firearm if I can't get it. Like once I have it, it's mine. I can keep it. Right? That's what this says. But it doesn't give anybody like, requirement to build a firearm for me. Like if I want to own a firearm and I can't find one, there's no right to me to have one if I can't find it. So why is it that I am going to force somebody to build me a firearm? Doesn't that seem ridiculous? Is that a right? I mean, there's a right in here to bear arms, right? I have literally I have a right to bear arms, but I do not have a right to make somebody build me a firearm. Isn't that right? I mean, to look at it that way. So in this sense, if I was to put healthcare in this book, right? This 10 amendments to the Constitution, if I was to put it as the 11th Amendment in there, if the founding fathers were to have thought of that when they were amending the Constitution right after they wrote it, and they were to put that in there, does it require somebody to actually go to school to learn how to do health so that they can make me better? Are they required to do that through this constitutional right? Of course not. You have a right to health care in the sense that you have a right to go and eat healthy food if you choose to go out there and find it and eat it. Right? That's something you have a right to do. You have a right to go and purchase healthy food if you can find it. Just like I have a right to go and buy healthy health care. I have a right to go buy firearms. But I don't have a right to make somebody build a firearm that I can buy. I do not own that right. And I do not own the right to make somebody go and get health care or learn to do health care, become a doctor so that I can get that service from them. That's no right. There's nothing in there that's a right. Okay? Your rights are you. You are it. That's it. There is no external when it comes to rights. Okay? Freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, the right not to have to quarter troops less during a time of war. Right? The Fourth Amendment, right to be secure in the person's houses, papers, and effects. The Fifth is due process. The Sixth and the Seventh. The Sixth is the rights of the accused in a criminal case. And the Seventh is the rights of the accused in a civil case. Eighth is cruel and unusual punishments. Ninth is what is it? Now I can't remember. It's something about like rights not specifically enumerated in the Constitution. Isn't that right? The ninth is rights not specifically enumerated, meaning that you have rights that are not necessarily listed here. And then the 10th is state and local rights supersede federal law. See, this is one of the reasons why you can smoke weed in states and it's still federally illegal, right? This is because state rights supersede federal law. Feds don't have the right to tell a state what to do. The federal government has the right to say this state can't interact with that state in this fashion. That's where their limitations come in. Understand rights. The American rights are not well known or understood well. Right? What time is it? 1:11. Our government breaks every constitutional statute, so I don't understand why we are discussing this stuff. Deplorable, I agree with you, but the thing is that, yeah, if you can communicate this in a court of law, it supersedes that. You have to be able to communicate it. Of course they do it. They do it every single day. The cop is nothing but a coercive person trying to enforce policies. Policies enforcers. That's what they are, right? And if you can constitutionally beat them in a court of law, right, when it comes to how it is that you conduct yourself, especially those who are on the sovereign citizen level, you are superior to with this, you are superior to them. Most people don't realize that they are. They've given up. They don't know how. They don't believe it. Okay? And since they don't believe it, it won't exist for them. And that's what it comes down to. Those who understand it, those who believe it, those who know that it exists and that it's real, they get to use it. They get to have it in their life. So it is worth discussing because it is real. Do you think should exist under the Constitution? The IRS should exist under the Constitution? No. But then again, I don't think a lot of stuff. So, I mean, when it comes to the existence of what we have right now, I can't use this to get rid of the Constitution. I can only use this to conduct myself. That's it. I have to conduct myself in a way. I have a driver's license, right? You know why I have a driver's license? Because I have a car that's registered. If I have a car that's registered, now I have to get insurance. I have to have that license. I have to maintain the insurance and registration on the vehicle. And all this is because the state is somewhat part owner in the vehicle because I own a certificate of title. I don't own the title. I own a certificate of the title. The title itself is the manufacturer statement of origin, which doesn't exist except for in public or in private government records or whatever it is, stored on a microfilm, and they issue out a certificate of title. That way that has to be registered. You see, up until that point, if you own the vehicle with a manufacturer's statement of origin and you do not have it registered, that vehicle is not subject to a lot of the laws that you would find out there. And the only problem is that you'll never get the manufacturer's statement of origin. See, if you had it, then you get stopped and the cop says, well, I'm sorry, this vehicle is going to come with me because it's not registered, licensed, insured, and all the other stuff. You can tell the officer, well, this vehicle is not part of the state. It doesn't have anything to do with them. This is my private personal property as if my skin, and unless you are judge, juror, and execution, this doesn't constitute due process for removing my private property from me. You can't do that. But the moment that the vehicle is registered, it's all over. Never mind. All that stuff be done. Right? Yep, go ahead, tow it away, make me get insurance, do all the other stuff that goes with it. Nobody, see, if you understand there's a difference between these, then you understand why it's happening. When you understand why it's happening, you can somewhat avoid the situation, even if you're participating within it. You can recognize what's going on, right? Most people don't recognize what's going on and they feel subject to the government. No, I voluntarily get my license, registration, insurance, and all this other stuff, knowing that there's no other way of going about it, because there is a way that it does exist. But I can't do it. And I get it. And I know why. And I'm cool with it. Right? Because if I wreck my car, I want to make sure that I don't lose everything in my life. So having insurance is fine. So that's what it comes down to. Just understand it. Just see it. Just know it. Right? It doesn't mean you have to do it. You don't have to be the sovereign citizen. But you do have to know that they aren't acting constitutionally, but the Constitution still exists. Simon, correction. The complete guide for a nation should not fit in your pocket. Brian, your opinion. That's your opinion. Right? And you're right. I think that this should be very well established, understood. I think that what they had created is very old. I think the first 10 amendments are very important. So you're right. There's some parts about it that are very old. But considering that nobody is following it anymore, but yet I can use this in a court, I can use it to protect myself because I'm the highest authority, and this thing still exists for me to be able to do that with, I'm going to use it. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to say it should be something that it isn't. Okay? It should be bigger, smaller, or whatever. I don't care. Right? It exists, and this is what I need. This is what I use. And I don't even use it. I don't need to, because I understand how to conduct myself without the need to use it. That's the important part. Right? It's like the whole thing is the whole point of it is to not need it. Like the firearm. The whole point is to not need it. You don't want to use it. Right? That would be the last thing you would want. I remember my brother telling me a story one time. He had stumbled out of a bar, and he was carrying, and he, like a drunk idiot, he's stumbling across these guys working on their car, and it's this shitty car, and he mumbles something about it being a shitty car, and these guys get mad at him, right? And they start chasing him down, and one of them's got this tire iron. Well, my brother's kind of a big dude. He's not like really well in shape, right? And these are younger guys who are now chasing him with the tire iron, and he's packing. And he is just like, and now he is very scared that these guys are going to get him, and he's going to end up killing both of them. This is what's going through his head. Not like, oh, I'm going to keep my rights and I'm going to protect and all this other stuff. My brother, who is well-trained in fighting from the army and is now running for his life, thinking, holy shit, if these guys get me, they're dead. Right? How many people tell that story? Tell that kind of story when it comes to firearm possession? Like, he knew at the moment he screwed up by saying something, right? And now he could be the tough guy and stand your ground and all this other stuff. He's not. He's running for his life right now. And he's not even running for his life. He's running for their life. They have no idea what they're about ready to encounter if they catch him. And since they were just trying to scare him and bully him a little bit, they ran to the end of the block or whatever and stopped chasing him. I mean, can you imagine? That could have changed everybody's life right there in that moment. It's a scary situation. It's scary out there, guys. Right? It's scary as hell. And you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's packing, what's going to go down. All right. I can see why you quit drinking. Why? Because I'm all wound up on the caffeine all the time. You don't know what they can do. Telling you is the illegal part. What does that say? Then the gun made no difference. What do you mean the gun made no difference? Right? I mean, ultimately, like, it made a huge difference in what would have happened had those guys got him. Like, if those guys were doing more than just like trying to just intimidate him and scare him and chase him away, like if they actually caught him, they would have been dead. Like if they got to the point that he would have had to pull it, he would have shot him because he's not going to pull it, otherwise. And so it made a huge difference. It made a huge difference in what it was that he was like in his reaction to what was happening out there was the same regardless. Right? So you're right. It made no difference inside of it. The difference made is if they had actually got to him. Right? Then there would have been a huge difference. They didn't get to him. They just tried to scare him. That's a great thing. Right? And he was thankful to just be scared. Right? To be run off, essentially. And not to be caught and to not be threatened with being beat with a tire iron. I mean, I could tell you some stories that my brother had gone through. It was, I don't even want to get into some of them. They're just not meant for people to know about. Even that, like me telling that story is really like, it's not for me to tell that story. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I think it's a really good one for a lot of people out there who say like, I pack for my protection and stuff like that. And it was just like, Jesus, yeah, what if you come into a situation like this? Right? It's different if somebody is coming after you because, they're trying to steal something from you, but it's different if you created the situation and now all of a sudden you didn't realize that you were going to be attacked for some stupid thing that you said because you're drunk, right? And now you got to make this decision to run away. And while drunk, consciously say, I'm not going to shoot these people. It's like, how hard is this? This is like not a great position to be in at all. All right. What about quality and taking care of your own like America First crap has first taken about? I'm sorry, I just like, what is that? America First crap has, he was talking about, okay, why not helping Americans? Okay. It's, all that stuff, like, again, it's all external stuff. You got to help yourself. That's it. There's no other way. You got to look at what's going on out there and say, okay, that's a bad thing. That's a good thing, whatever. Okay. Then you help yourself. You vote for the best you can, right? Do change what local you can as best you can, like participate as much as you can, volunteer and stuff like that. But just to understand that there's no way that you can put hope and faith and belief into something of like government. It's just not going to work. You're going to be sorely disappointed by it. Maybe, I don't know. Some people might not be. All right. They could have had concealed weapons too. They very well could have, but they didn't. They had real weapons in their hands. Like I think he had like some kind of like, I think he said a 4-way, like a 4-way lug wrench. I think that's what he said they were chasing him down with. So they did have a weapon. Right? This is a great channel. Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Funny how people that don't carry seem to know all the psychology about carrying. Right, all-nighter? See, this is the story that I told about my brother is one of the reasons why I just don't carry, because I know that there's people out there who have it, right? I know people who do it every day, right? And because they do that, I feel safe in the fact that it exists out there. I've never been in a position in which that I needed a firearm unless I was hunting. Then that was the only position in which that I was, would need one, right? Other than that, like I've never experienced a time in which that a firearm would have been the thing to have. Like this would have made the event much better. Like I've never experienced that. Now, again, don't get me wrong. Like I have like I have plenty of experience and capabilities and all the other stuff that goes with it. My level of importance when it comes to this, or even just general like energy towards it, is really low and neutral. Like I don't get excited. I don't think about it. I don't even really talk about firearms, like I don't talk about, oh, what kind of firearm do you have? Oh, those are really cool, whatever, like I'm just not into it that much. I mean, I love shooting. Like, I mean, I want to go down to Vegas. I want to take all-nighter down to Vegas. I want to shoot out of the helicopter. I want to shoot the machine guns out of the helicopter down in Vegas. That is an experience I want to go for. Like, that's something I want to do in my life. I agree. Simon should run. Well, for what? From what? All right. So if you are disabled by a stroke, that is on you. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. All right. I can see having firearms to protect my home, but not having one strapped to me everywhere I go. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with that, but again, like, I'm not agreeing with like that for other people. I'm just agreeing that for myself. Like, I don't want to carry firearms around. You know, I just don't have that in my head. But other people doing it, I'm totally cool with. Let's see here. Yep, Lion, and I have a concealed carry. You should run for office. Oh, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. See, here's the thing, like, I think about the concealed, like, we were just talking about Constitution, right? And now, again, like, I don't knock anybody else out there in the decision makings and what it is that they do, but have you ever thought about, like, when you have a concealed weapons permit and you get stopped, you have to inform that police officer whether or not you're carrying it or not? Like, you are required to communicate, essentially losing your right to remain silent. Like, this is what I find interesting. You have asked for a concealed weapon permit. It's a permission slip. You are admitting that you do not have a right and that you are asking for permission. And upon asking for this permission, because you already acknowledge you don't have a right by asking for permission, you have also relinquished another right to remain silent by having to inform a police officer whether or not you are carrying or not when you get stopped by the cops, when you get pulled over. You see what's happened here? It's just like, whoa, wait a minute. I have to ask for permission to something that I already feel I have a right to do because this thing says, the Second Amendment, I have a right to bear arms. So I have to ask for permission, a permission slip, for something that I already feel I have a right to do, which essentially means that I am essentially admitting I don't have a right if I'm asking for permission. And by relinquishing that right, I essentially relinquish another right to remain silent by having to inform the police officer if I get stopped in a vehicle. You see, like, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I want a concealed weapons permit. I'm cool. I don't even want to carry a gun anyway, so even better yet, I don't want to relinquish any of my rights by asking for permission. All right? Because I don't ask for permission, I feel I already have a right to do. I'm cool. You know? And that's me personally, right? And again, everybody might take a different meaning towards that, right? And say it much differently and then express it in a much different meaning. That's the meaning I've given it, and I don't want to have a concealed weapons permit because essentially I don't want to relinquish any rights, especially that of communication to a police officer. I don't want to have to be required to communicate. I communicate with police. Like, all the cops in my area, I know them, they're all cool. Like, I don't get in trouble for anything, so like, why wouldn't, they're all cool. So it's not that, it's my own personal belief and my own personal right to remain silent and to be able to to not be forced into relinquishing that right because I have asked for permission. Okay. Comes up on the passport. So you are an instant felon in some states. Don't break the law. Just thought there is a punitive tax on cigarettes, but it's not protect human health. Would you support a punitive tax on Temu to prevent people from buying junk and filling up landfills? Well, I wouldn't do it for them to buy junk and filling up landfills. If I was to do it, it would be because they're diving into luxuries, and I wouldn't do that anyway because I'm not one to try and force an outcome of what it is that I believe needs to exist. I just try to exist in the experience of what it is that's happening out there in the world. I don't buy new. I don't buy luxuries. I don't. Like, you go and find, like, all my stuff would fit in the Suburban easily, and somebody would maybe offer me $1,000 for it all. Like, they'd be like, man, I'm going to be nice and just, like, because I know, like, you're trying to sell all your possessions, and so I'll give you $1,000 for all this stuff. Like, literally. Like, I have, the house is the coolest part of, like, all my possessions. All the rest of the stuff, super meager. Like, nothing great. Nothing fancy. Nobody would want to steal anything from me because I don't have anything to steal, I mean, the TV's kind of nice, but it's still 4 years old now. So why would you want to steal that? That's like, it would take more work to get it off the wall than just go buy your own. Yeah. So yeah, like no, that's the issue. It's the dive into luxuries. I live the life that I want to see out there. I don't move into luxuries. I don't buy luxurious experiences. Right? My luxurious experiences literally wrap around work. Like I go to Vegas to go talk at a conference. I'm going there to work. That's my luxurious experience, was to travel to Vegas to go to work. Right? My cars are old, like literally all my vehicles. Well, not the S10. The S10 is a 2001. This is a 99 Ford Explorer, and that's a 97 Suburban. Like, it's the move into luxuries that's the problem. That's the problem, period. I don't care how else you want to look at it. You can narrow it down to any kind of other aspect, but ultimately, it's every time you buy something new for enjoyment, you are creating separation between the rich and the poor. You're destroying domestic manufacturers every single time. There was a time that wouldn't have happened. There would have been a time in this country that moving into luxurious experiences would have benefited more Americans. We don't live that existence anymore. And we're not going to go back to that existence. And this hope and dream of believing that we're going to somehow have this rebirthing of like the American Industrial Revolution where a single income can produce enough for an entire household is delusional. It's not going to go like that. There's no possible way that it could ever go that way. I don't care how much people theorize upon it. They can imagine gold standards and, all kinds of like, different concepts that would come to this idea of being able to return this sort of like, I don't know, this sort of like, belief that you can have this wonderful middle class experience built off of the production and savings, like to be able to return that back to the United States. It is like, I listen to people talk about it and I'm like, you are wasting your time believing that. It's not going to happen. Like, you can imagine it. You can sit there and imagine this beautiful painting and draw this wonderful painting. Right? Beautiful painting, isn't it? And you'd be like, yeah, it's a beautiful painting. It doesn't exist except for on that piece of paper. Right? It only exists in your mind. The reality of the situation is so much different that, to believe that we're going to change it back to something or change it into something that it isn't is just like, good luck with that. It ain't gonna happen. We are on a path of inequality that is happening by the ever increasing amounts of new money coming into an economy that separates that rich from the poor, that drives out domestic manufacturers, that drives in ever increasing amounts of foreign production. It's just like, you can't stop that. It's just the way it's going. And, you can create those just like, well, they got these laws and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, all those things are being created it's actually a symptom of the problem. Those things wouldn't, like the tariffs, the duties, and all the other stuff, wouldn't exist if the problem wasn't there. So, to me, it's just like people are like, what do we need to do? And I was just like, you need to figure it out for yourself so that you can make the right decisions on the conditions. Don't try and think about ways to change the conditions. There's no changing the conditions. The conditions are just going to stay the same. I mean, there's going to be some changes to it when you got like expectations that change or whatever. But the idea of like, how do we bring up and have a strong middle class and all that other stuff again? And it was just like all the ideas and theories and stuff behind it is ultimately going to be for a lost cause. I mean, whether it slows down the inevitable or whatever, I mean, okay, it might be doing that or something, but there's one direction that this goes. It's going to be ever increasing amounts of new money until the new money turns off. When the new money turns off, everybody falls into poverty and misery. And I don't mean to be like a doomsdayer about it, but that's essentially the simplest way to look at it. After that, like, it's just going to get complicated to try and figure it all out. Know that you have a position right now that you can take that is going to be in that of having money flowing towards you that you can then deploy into positions that will then separate you from the poor. Capital investments, real estate. Like even the idea of like, if you don't have the ability to buy a house, you can buy real estate ETFs. You can do something as simple as Cash App, buy these ETFs with as little as like $5 or $10. Like, you can start participating right now. You don't have to be in the mindset of like, I need to make $1 million off of this right now today, or else this isn't going to work for me. You just literally step into the energy of being in that position. I want to be in a capitalistic property ownership position, because that is what's going to keep me on the upper side of the wedge, or at least move into that side of the wedge and not be burdened as time goes on, making it ever harder on me to try and have a simple way of life. The job just won't do it. There was a time when your job would have done it. You could have, like anybody, like literally anybody, you could have worked at any job, like any just honest job, 9 to 5, been somewhat disciplined in your savings, be able to save enough to put down on a house, and then your hourly income would have been enough to pay for make the payments. It doesn't exist like that anymore. Your average everyday job just doesn't cut it. Even a good job sucks. So know that you have to have so many things going on out there that is beyond that of your day job. Like, you have to participate in other forms of the economy, whether it's online sales or Uber delivery systems or whatever, right? Whatever it is that's going on out there that you can try and earn some extra money, whatever extra is. There is no such thing as extra. It's just the money that you have and more of it or not, right? But once you figure that out and learn how to do something like that, you're going to realize that that's why you weren't making it before, is because you're competing against people who are doing it. Your good job used to be enough when nobody else out there had any other way of making any other money other than their job too. And you were all in competition against each other who had regular jobs. And those jobs were manufacturing stuff that's sent out there to the world. The world was sending us their money. No wonder why it worked so well. There's no fixing it. That's the point. There's just no fixing it. Continuing on. The rain sounds nice. Thank you, Deja Vu. I really appreciate that. I like it too. I like the rain when I'm doing these videos. See, like, just like anything else out there, the meaning that you give something. Like, I wanted to mow the lawn some more. I almost finished the back. I got tired. I didn't finish it. I got almost everything done. And now it's raining. I can't mow the lawn, right? So I'm bummed about that. I give meaning to the rain that says, man, I'm bummed about the not being able to finish the lawn. But I really like the rain because I don't have the sun cooking me in the Explorer while doing this video, and it makes a pleasant background noise, right? It's all about the meaning you give anything. Like the video, everyone. Well, thank you, Hickory54. I really appreciate that. Yes, please do. 405 people with 229 likes. Go out there and hit that like button. I tell you what, if you can get it with 401 people and 230 likes right now, get it up to 300 likes in the next 10 minutes. 300 likes in the next 10 minutes, and we'll stick it out. Otherwise, we're going to call it quits at 1 hour and 40 minutes and 50 minutes into this. All right, true that. Okay. The American dream, you have to be asleep to believe it. I don't believe that, DR. See, this is the problem that I think, like, even I had as a conspiracy theorist, is because I would go around saying stuff just like that. That, you know, in order to acquire the American dream, you would have to be asleep to believe it, or even acquire it or anything else. Like, you just couldn't get it. It's just not possible. The American dream is still very well attainable. House, car, wife, kids, paying my bills. Here it is, right? 401k with my boss. Like, I'm trying the best to live the American dream as best as I understand it and know it. Here's the problem that I had understood it, is that my day job should have been enough. Nope, it's not. The day job is not enough, but the American dream still is there. It's still attainable, but you have to now move beyond that of your day job in order to acquire it. Being able to compete against other people who are doing the exact same thing that you are doing is very difficult. The moment that you arise above that, right? The moment that you get and realize that there is more out there than just your day job that you have to go to in order to acquire the things that you want, now all of a sudden you just eliminated a whole bunch of the competition because they're not doing what you're doing. Here's the issue that we're facing now is more and more people are realizing this, and the competition for those side hustles are getting more and more. However, we're still in the early stages of it. I know. High school, barely graduated, have a high school diploma, that's it. No other education, no business to speak of, nothing like anything like you would imagine somebody who would be able to buy a house in the 10th most expensive place in the nation to buy a house from populations of 10 to 50,000. Here it is, I'm doing it, right? And I'm showing you guys that it can happen. And I understand that a lot of people say that you can't, not everybody can have a YouTube channel. I get that. I worked this YouTube channel like it was a second job. I worked it for years before it even was able to start generating revenue. You know how much time I put into this thing before it ever, like I would be out there practicing videos over and over again because I would refuse to do edits. So every single one of my videos, very few edits. And when I moved over to live streams, I thought even better. Because then I don't even have to take the time to upload the video. It's doing it automatically. So live streams by far are my favorite way of doing this. It's the most honest, real way of putting the information out there. Anybody can edit a video and practice what it is that they say and each specific sentence be perfect, right? And you see it all the time. Like you see all these people, they rehearse and practice every single sentence and then put it out there in the most perfect form. And it's well received. I mean, a lot of people really enjoy that sort of information because it's still good information that's coming from it. I deliver it raw, straightforward, right from the heart. No other way. Live. All right, moving on. All right, I'm going to buy gold and silver first thing tomorrow morning. I like the live. Yeah, I do too. I like the live because it's real, right? There is no hiding it. There is no, answering questions on the fly right off the cuff of, shoot from the hip, right? And it's different. I don't think a lot of people can do that. I remember doing some interviews. I haven't done interviews in a long time. I think maybe I just intimidated people or they just don't, maybe, I don't know. But I used to get asked to do a lot of interviews and for other people's channels. And I remember like more than one occasion, in fact, it would happen a lot, more often than not, I think, that the person who was conducting the interview would say to me, and they're like, wow, you're really good at this. I don't even think we have to edit anything. And I'm like, of course you won't have to edit anything. Why would you? Why would you edit? I don't understand. Like, aren't you delivering the information that is complete, like exactly the way it is, raw, even with the mistakes or the screw-ups or incorrectness or misunderstandings that you might have had with it? Like, everything is real when you do it without edits. Like, why would you edit? I don't understand. And they were like, well, we've asked people questions and like literally they had to take like 5 to 10 minutes to think about their response to that question in order to, and like they would ask, like, we want a list of all the questions you're going to ask me so that we can, have the proper answers for them so that we don't seem like an idiot. And I'm like, I don't want to know what those questions are. I have no interest in knowing. In fact, you're going to get a better response out of me if I don't know those questions. So don't give me any list of any idea of what it is that we're going to do in this interview. All right, I want to be able to deliver the information straightforward right from the initial asking of the question. And that surprised a lot of people. Like they don't feel comfortable with it. They're like, I don't know if I can do that. Like as an interview conductor, they didn't know if they could handle that. And I'm like, well, that's the way it's going to go down. I mean, I don't want the list of questions, and I'm not going to read them even if you sent them to me. So, you know. And then as I started doing interviews, like when I practiced with a few people just to, before I started asking like some of the big hitters, before I started asking George Gammon, Peter Schiff, and Lynette Zhang, and all these other people, Jason Hartman. Before I asked all these guys to do interviews for the channel, I wanted to practice a little bit, right? So I was practicing with just a few individuals that I had found, get their story and just kind of ask them a few questions and stuff. And I realized it was like, man, I'm pretty good at this. Like, I'm pretty good at thinking of the next question that I'm going to ask as they are responding to the question that I had as they're responding, I'm thinking of the next question that they're going to do. And I realized, man, I'm pretty good at this. Like, I can keep this interview going really well. And again, like, we didn't have to do edits. And even the people who I was doing the interviews with, they said, man, thank you. That was a lot of fun. You really keep the thing flowing, And I'm like, yeah, again, because I never used edits, right? It has to flow. If it doesn't flow, it's not going to work. We have to do this in a single shot. So the more I started doing this, and the more I was even realizing that the energy that I was putting into the videos by not doing edits was actually coming through from the people that I was interviewing, and that they didn't need the edits either. Like, they could just answer the questions because I was easily flowing with them through this interview process. I even think, like, to be honest with you, I believe Peter Schiff's interview was one of the best that I had out there, considering that he had kind of given me some attitude before we even got started. And even personally, like, he's kind of like, when I've met him in person, he kind of gave me a bit of an attitude. But the interview that he gave me was so good. It was absolutely the top notch, good answers, response, good energy that he put into it. And when I tried to cut the interview short, because I asked him for an hour and he was a little upset about the hour, he was like, an hour? I thought we were going to do like 10 minutes, And I'm like, well, then it dawned on me. I was like, man, how much is an hour of Peter's time worth? And I'm like, that's a lot to ask for. And I didn't realize that until after I kind of got started with it. I'm like, oh crap. So, my lunch, I was doing this over my lunch break, so, which was even stranger, So I see like my lunch hour is starting to come to an end. And so I'm telling him, I'm trying to cut the interview, off. And he looks down at I realized he was looking down at the time, saw that there was 50 minutes, and he continued to talk for another 10 minutes to finish out the hour. And I thought, man, that was really cool of you, Peter, to like, no, we're not finishing this at 40 or at 50 minutes. We're going to go the whole 60, And he delivered more information to continue the video or the interview on for another 10 minutes. And I thought, man, that was so cool of you. I mean, I don't think he knew that I was like a little bit stressed for time. Like, I had to go back to work, which is funny to think. Here I am interviewing this billionaire dude who's like all over the news. I'm in my crappy 99 Toyota Corolla doing an interview with Peter Schiff on my lunch break. Right? See, this is why there are no barriers, guys. You see, there are no barriers. This is why people say, like, dude, you really broke through the barriers. I'm like, what barriers? I don't get it. I don't understand that. There is no barriers. If you don't know that there's barriers, like if the barriers don't come into view, like you didn't understand that there were barriers, then they just simply don't exist. I built up the channel. It was popular. I had gone to the Rebel Capitalist. I had done these things, and I'm like, well, maybe I should do some interviews. I did a few interviews building up to it, interview guys like, George Gammon and Jason Hartman and these other people, and then sent an email off to Peter Schiff. One of his guys responded to it a few weeks later saying, yeah, we can set up a time here in, the next month. It actually took place. And it was funny because, like, considering that I was doing it on my lunch break, I had to rearrange my lunch schedule that day because he came back. He says, oh, I'm sorry, guys. We can't really, I got an email saying we can't do it at the time we schedule. We have to push it back. So I changed the lunch schedule. Then he says, oh, man, we got to do another half an hour back. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. You don't know what I'm going through trying to rearrange schedules at work, who is like now getting annoyed with me because I'm trying to do this interview on YouTube that doesn't have anything to do with work. Right? That's how that went down. It was a lot of fun. All right, Simon, do you take free sweatshirts from Oregon Coast companies? If so, can I drop off to you? Do I take free sweatshirts? Well, the word free is pretty dangerous around me. So, I mean, like, free? Yeah, sure, I'll take it. I mean, yeah, what is it? I'll figure it out whether, yeah, sure, I'll take free. All right, I hope for your sake it has a bump on Monday, not what I expect, eh? Well, I don't know. Are they telling Americans about it yet? Because it really only seems to be outside of the United States that they are talking. I don't know. It's been a couple of almost 2 hours. Maybe it's getting noticed yet. Let me see here. Lumber tariffs and duty. Here, well, let's put both of them in the Google search. All right, let's go to news. Let's go to time range. Last 24 hours. I see no articles on this at all coming from any United States public outlets. Like, I don't know. Are Americans, or United States citizens even going to understand or know the people? Are they going to even know that this is happening to them? That what was supposed to be punishment on the Canadians and taxing Canadian people on the lumber is actually going to be a tax on the American people for buying it? Right? I mean, that was ultimately what was going to happen anyway. But this whole, like, we're going to punish them is more like, no, we're going to punish you for buying from them. How about that? Right? But it's not being talked about, so I don't even know if the people will know. Right? I mean, we know about it, but does everybody else? Why would you buy a robot to do stuff if you need to have someone running it still? I've seen of them. Is this there? Okay. Ooh, come on back. There we go. I've got to hit the trail. Bye and have fun, everyone. Thanks again, Simon. Well, thank you, Brody, for being here, and thank you for all the hard work you do, being dedicated to the channel. I'm retired, mortgage free, drive 13-year-old Toyota, own mutual funds, have pension, heading to Costa Rica on the 19th. Retirement rocks. Well, good for you. That's exactly what it should be for you. Tariffs are consumption tax that redirect consumer buying. Yeah, but I mean, I think the idea, like, I totally agree, right? And ultimately, I don't think that this is going to be that impactful to the lumber prices on the, considering that it's really a small portion of the overall lumber that we consume here in the United States. I mean, it's only 20 to 25% that is going to have a tariff attached to it, or a tax attached to it. So even on that, it's significant, but it's not that big of a deal. And it seems and it sounds and it feels like it's much bigger than it really is. But even it's not such a big deal that the United States publications, media outlets are talking about it, so it's not that big of a deal to them. All right, I wonder why. Where are we at? Oh, we only made it to 275. Bummer, guys. All right, well, I'm going to call it quits. You guys are awesome. Let's see here. It's hour. Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll go for 2 hours and just make it a 2-hour video. And I'll answer a couple of more questions because I just love being out here. But at some point, we just got to call it quits for the day. They are begging their employees not to dump Tesla stock. Yeah. XOM, XVX are nice, stable, low-risk investments, opposite of Tesla, TLSA. In that regard, oil is not going away. Tariffs is inflation wrapped up in an excuse to blame someone else. Are tariffs the groundwork for UBI funding? I don't know about that. I honestly think that it's all credible threats. Think about it. Tariff on lumber, lumber tariff, lumber tariff, lumber tariff. Right? No, no lumber tariff. That's exempt. What you're going to get is a duty, not a tariff. Right? So now is duty going to be inflationary? Because now we can exclude Canada out of the deal because we're not taxing them. We're going to tax the consumer for buying Canadian lumber. Right? Much different story being told now when we were doing this to punish the Canadians. Now we're just going to punish the people for buying from Canada. It's a whole different thing. And the idea is to push inflation expectations higher, and we did a video on that yesterday. Right? Pushing inflation expectations higher is the ultimate goal and attempt by the powers that be. It's still charging the same people. It's just either you target at point of consumer or business sale. Absolutely right. I mean, I still think it's a tax upon the consumer itself. Right? At the end of it, it's still taxing the consumer, but it's the idea behind it that was being delivered as far as the message. We are trying to punish these other nations. That's the point. Right? And instead, what we do is we end up saying, no, we're not going to tax them. We're going to tax you from buying from them. This is a whole different new story that's being told. Right? Or a different outcome. I shouldn't say that it's a different story. It's a different outcome than what people are believing coming from this. Like they thought, no, we're doing this to punish these other nations. Instead, what we were going to say, we're going to punish you from buying from the other nation. Now, whether or not you want to give it the same meaning, that's up to you. But to me, that seems very different, right? It's like you're still going to get punished. You're still going to pay a higher price, regardless. But instead of outright punishing them by saying, hey, we're going to charge you a tax for importing stuff into our country, instead, what we are saying is we're going to charge you a tax from buying from that other country. So they're not paying the tax, you're paying the tax. Ultimately, you're going to pay the tax anyway. But instead of punishing them, we're going to punish you from buying from them. Which is ultimately punishing them too. Do you think in the future there will be more rules for people not to buy luxurious items? No, I don't. In fact, I think what they will do is they're going to force feed money into us through UBI kind of applications so that we will buy luxuries. Right? I think the moment that the people decide that they are going to back away from the luxurious experience and start moving in to a production saving mentality, I think the pain and the experience that would result from that would then force the powers that be into some sort of stimulating behavior in which that they would force feed money right into us. And I believe that UBI kind of application would work in that sort of situation. I don't believe that to be the way they should do it. I just think that would happen if that was to be the case. Like if the people stop buying into luxury, then you'll have a deterioration of the economy within itself, and then they would attempt to force feed it into us. Like they don't want you being a producer saver. I don't care what anybody says. The system is not designed around a production saving. It has evolved far away from that. Like in order to be in a production saving nation kind of attitude, we would have to have like a fixed currency and all that. It's like you don't want to do that. Like it's what we have now gone to is something where we buy the production of the world and we essentially offer them nothing in return except for a promise to pay in the future. That's it. Like we literally give them nothing for everything that they make. And people are like, oh, this is a bad deal for America. And I'm like, is it really? Are you sure? Because like I would just say it out loud. We send them a paper promise. They send us real stuff. And you want that to end. And they're ripping us off. Like I'm failing to see this. I really am. You hear grown men call Trump daddy? That really happens? Oh. M Rider 777. I'm trying to learn stocks. I want to short this so bad. All right. Well, I mean, if you want to short the market, there's plenty of ETFs that will do it. Just type in I'll give you a hand. Just Google ETFs that short the market by 3 times. right? Put short ETFs that short the market, 3 with an X behind it. And then by that, like, if you really want to short the market, I mean, be careful, because if it goes the opposite way, you're going to get burned bad. All right? But anyway, I mean, there you go. And then go find it, an online broker that'll do it, like maybe Cash App or something like that might have access to that particular ETF. There's a lot of limitations that you use from online brokers, so you might have to use, a more sophisticated type brokerage system. Let me cruise down here. What time is it? Okay, we got no more minutes left. Thank you so much for being part of the Uneducated Economist live stream today, talking about the lumber duties and how it's a tax on the consumer of the product, and not necessarily a tax on the country of origin. And ultimately, it's a tax on the consumer, and it's always going to be. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.